All right, Mark. Coming up on the early edition of Action News tonight on To Your Health, the story behind a painful condition that you might think belongs to a different century.
And all the rain we've had this week has made a difference, at least to the Delaware River Basin Commission. Yo, Dave.
That's the good news, and we want to know if the little sun we had today is going to hang around for the weekend. We'll give you that AccuWeather forecast for the weekend when Action News comes right back.
Ricky Schroeder, Lindsay Wagner, and Peter Weller star in the compelling Two Kinds of Love.
Watch if something hurts her. Nurse? You know, you really stink. I hate you being my father! Is she gonna die?
They say she's got a 25% chance.
Two Kinds of Love, tonight after Nightline.
The Board of Governors of Rutgers University voted today to approve a 13% hike in tuition, and that sparked a noisy protest by some students who called for the ouster of university president Edward Blaustein. Well, dozens of these students tried to force their way into the dean's office. They scuffled with campus police. New Brunswick City Police were called in, and about 100 students at Rutgers were taken into custody before all of this finally ended.
Delegates of the World Health Organization voted today against a measure that would have granted immediate membership to the PLO. The United States had threatened to withdraw funding to the organization if the Palestine Liberation Organization was allowed to become a member. Member nations of the World Health Organization voted to defer the question of PLO admission for a year after the organization Director General told them the loss of U.S. funding would be, quote, a bigger danger than AIDS.
Robin Garrison joins us now with To Your Health and some encouraging news about a very common, painful condition which strikes mostly men, huh?
Boy, painful is the word. Mark and Lisa, the condition is gout. Now, that's often thought of as a disease of centuries past, but in fact, it's still quite common and quite painful today. Ed Garion of Vineland, New Jersey, had a severe attack of gout 3 years ago.
You can't explain the type of pain it is. It's just such a severe pain, words can't explain it.
Is any of this sore?
No, no.
Okay. Here?
No, no.
Dr. Raphael de Horatius says gout is the result of the body's overproduction of uric acid. The excess uric acid forms crystals, which are then deposited, most often in the joints, especially the big toe.
The result of that is inflammation, where the body tries to get rid of the crystals or the uric acid crystals and then produces an inflammatory response, which leads to redness and heat and pain.
17th century physician Thomas Sydenham gave a vivid description of his attacks of gout. The pain, he said, which at first was moderate, becomes more intense. Now it is a violent stretching and tearing. Now it is a gnawing pain, and now a pressure and tightening. So exquisite and lively, meanwhile, is the feeling of the part affected that it cannot bear the weight of the bedclothes nor the jar of a person walking in the room. The night is passed in torture. Doctors say there are a few things that can trigger an attack of gout. Eating rich food, for example, or drinking alcohol. Water pills and aspirin can do it too because they block the excretion of uric acid. The good news is gout can be treated very successfully with drugs to control the inflammation. Ed has had his gout under control for some time now.
I've been fortunate. I haven't had an attack now in, I would say, 6 to 8 months.
And hope never to have one.
Never again, right, never again.
Never, never. Now, the doctor says that if gout is left untreated, it will go away on its own accord in 10 days to 2 weeks. But then how long can you stand that kind of pain?
Who wants to wait that long? All right. Thank you, Robin. And still to come on the early edition of Action News, Scott Palmer with the Flyers postmortem.
And the sound of jazz performed by a master as the early edition of Action News continues.
Oh, honey, don't come near me, please.
Oh, I can't. No, it's not a good idea.
Oh, no, baby, not right now, no.
Oh, sweetie, you don't want to get too close.
Till that sticky, pasty morning mouth film on your mouth, teeth, and gums is powered away with Scope, and the worst breath of the day is replaced with the best.
Kiss me.
What are you waiting for?
Great kiss.
You may kiss me now.
Scope, the best thing first thing in the morning.
Well, in sports, it's always tough to lose, but especially on your home turf.
It seems so long since the Flyers dominated teams at the Spectrum.
too long for Flyers fans. In the playoffs, you have to win a game or two on your home ice. The Flyers did not, and their season came to an end last night. Montreal beat them 4-1, closing out the Flyers in 6 games. Well, before last night, the team that scored first won every game. That looked like a good omen, especially when Scott Mellanby put the Flyers out front 1-0. But the Flyers got a bad break on this Montreal power play. Jeff Chychrun took a swipe at the puck and knocked it past Ron Hextall. The Canadiens made it 2-1 on a power play goal by Bobby Smith. He tips the puck home, and the Canadiens never looked back. They went on to win it 4-1. Chris Chelios, the most despised man in South Philadelphia, rubbed some salt in the wounds as he scored another goal. Finally, the Flyers goalie had enough. He came charging out of his net to get some revenge on the guy who put Brian Propp down earlier in the series.
Was it just a question of just being blind rage, Ron, or can you tell us what went through your mind?
Blind rage? What, did you see what he did to Brian Propp? Come on, I think we owe him something.
As Hextall battled Chelios, fans at the Spectrum started throwing cups of beer on the ice. It was a very ugly way to end what had been a very noble playoff series for the Flyers.
I don't think it puts a black eye on it. I don't think anything can take away from the way the team played throughout the entire playoffs. I wish it hadn't happened. I'm sure that they wish that they could take it back, but what happened, happened.
Mr. Snyder, when we talked to him, said obviously it was ugly, and he knows that if you guys could take it back and change it, you would. Is that your feeling?
I don't think I have to comment. Let's talk about the hockey game or the season or something, not the petty BS.
The National Hockey League will hold a hearing next week to decide if they're going to take action against Hextall. Vice President Brian O'Neill is waiting for a copy of the tape from last night's game. If Hextall is suspended, he would begin serving that suspension at the start of next season.